We'll get started in a second.
What do you guys think?
Can you hear? That's true. Did you guys hear that I'm tall compared to everyone else?
Yeah. Must be nice.
You think it's too high?
Do you want to have Kat come out in a second? We'll do the range.
Hey, I got heels on today.
He's still the shortest.
Wow.
Shot fired.
The Lori Lightfoot days were tough. You think it? Okay.
We ready to get started?
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Rachel Cohen. I'm an attorney, I'm a Chicago resident, and I'm one of many, many concerned people showing up to exercise my First Amendment rights to tell the government to stop disappearing my neighbors. As I've exercised those First Amendment rights, I've seen an astonishingly motivated grassroots coalition come together. People always want to know who's in charge here. Nobody's in charge. Everyday people know what's right. Everyday people are showing up in unbelievable numbers to come out and say that we are sick of the government disappearing our neighbors, and we're so grateful for the elected officials here to amplify, several of whom you'll hear from today. You're going to hear about so much government violence and government escalation today. You're going to see it happen, probably. At the end of August, I was arrested and ticketed for sitting peacefully blocking an ICE van full of my neighbors bound for unknown fates. Last week, ICE drove their vehicles straight into protesters instead. The government is waging war on its population. They started it by abducting people from our community, and they continue to escalate against protesters, journalists, and elected officials. Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, here in her personal capacity, has been on the front lines of this fight with me and so many others, and is here to tell you about what she's seen.
I want to thank everyone for being here. My name is Kat Abu-Ghazaleh. That is spelled K-A-T-A-B-U-G-H-A-Z-A-L-E-H. I am one of hundreds of people who have been brutalized by ICE while protesting the inhumane conditions at the Broadview Processing Center over the past few weeks. We are gathered here, activists and elected leaders and community members, in solidarity and perseverance to demand what our community deserves. Transparency, to know what is happening behind those boarded up windows, and to allow elected officials like Delia Ramirez and Chuy Garcia to inspect the facility as they are allowed to by law. Accountability, to identify the officers that have brutalized our community, denied immigrants their rights, and commit unprovoked violence against civilians and the press. And finally, safety, to tear down the unlawful gate that is behind us, which blocks a public street, which was ordered to come down by the Broadview Fire Department, and which endangers anyone that comes to this facility. Not just protesters, not just press, but also families trying to locate their loved ones. Over the last month, we have watched as ICE has operated with impunity in Chicago. They destroy homes, kill our neighbors, and disappear hundreds in the name of unlawful and racist orders. And all roads of their crimes lead here, to Broadview, the reason we have been protesting in the first place. And the response by many has been silence and capitulation. We've been forced into a free speech zone. Its very existence implies that everywhere else is a non-free speech zone, that there are places where our First Amendment rights do not apply. It is ICE's responsibility to respect and uphold our First Amendment rights. It is not on us to accommodate their illegal and immoral actions. Just having this press conference is a risk, not only to the protesters or the people speaking here, but to the press covering it. ICE has arrested press. I watched as they threw a tear gas canister at you. They don't want you to show their crimes, and you being here, you covering this is a risk. So thank you for being here. This is a processing facility. It is only supposed to hold people for 12 hours at a time. But we have heard reports of people being held for days or weeks at a time, without beds or hot meals or access to hygienic facilities. We've heard of grandmothers and pregnant women sleeping on concrete floors. of dozens of men in a single cell. I watched as detainees were marched into a van in the very same clothes they were detained in, and we have no idea how long they were there. It is likely that the conditions in the Broadview Processing Center are much worse than we already know, because ICE will not allow our elected officials to inspect the facility, which is our leaders' legal right. They mask their faces. ICE masks their faces. ICE set up gates to keep us away from their crimes. ICE boards up their windows. What we do know has come from prisoners who risk their own safety and the safety of their loved ones to speak out. And as our community is outraged, we turn up. And ICE responds with brutality. Tear gas, pepper and rubber bullets, some shot by snipers on roofs, flashbangs, physical violence, vehicles ramming through civilians, and abductions of protesters and the press. Republicans have described Chicago as a war zone. They are obviously wrong. But Broadview is a war zone. It's a war zone with the government waging war on peaceful protesters. And every week the government escalates. You can see it right here. They have a fixed gun on the roof right now, aiming at protesters. This is one-sided violence, one-sided escalation that began with mass secret police coming into our community and disappearing our neighbors. And it will get worse. Trump, ICE, and Kristi Noem won't even follow the Geneva Conventions when it comes to their fellow Americans. Every day is an exercise in chaos with only one constant, and that is indiscriminate violence by ICE. We watched as agents hit, throw, shoot, and gas young women and old men, civilians and veterans, disabled people and service dogs, protesters and their documentarians, all without knowing who these men are, what agency they work for, or what they are allowed to do. Illinois has led the country in fighting Trump's authoritarian agenda, but he is escalating and we are at a turning point. So are we going to stand up for the people, for the law, or are we going to let ICE do as it pleases? Kristi Noem is here right now to ensure that her crimes against humanity continue unimpeded. We are here to make sure that does not happen. So let us in, give us justice, and tear this gate down. Thank you.
Isn't she great? Yeah. Next up, we have Andre Vasquez, alderperson for the 40th Ward, chair of the Committee on Immigrant and Refugee Rights, co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, and chair of the Latino Caucus.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Alderperson Andre Vasquez, ANDRE-VASQUEZ. And like everybody here, we wish we wouldn't have to be here. That's apparently the United States government. We're barely united at this point. I can hardly call it government. What it's been is the politics of division. While this is going on, just like we have seen in past history, we have opportunists that are looking to make people feel othered and blaming them because they can't govern at all. You've got people in red states and blue states that can't pay their bills, they can't live their lives, and they know the government is screwing them over, but because they're busy watching whatever media reaffirms their bias, they're being led to believe that children, that families, that people that are locked up in that building are keeping them from the promise of this country. We got a guy in the White House who's been breaking the promise of this country since he's been on the scene, and he continues to do so. In that building, you've got anywhere from 150 to 200 people in rooms about the size of a conference room. They don't have enough space to sleep in. They have maybe a chair or two. The bathroom's in the same space. You got people with gauzes over their head because they've been wounded by federal agents. They barely get fed. We know this because they've called, when they're lucky enough to make a call, to let people know what's going on. And if you ask any of us what we wanted to do in our hearts, it'd be to eliminate the whole thing. But what we know is it's the only point of contact for some of the migrant justice work organizations to actually find out what's happening to people there. There are plenty that have been disappeared. There's one that we know that was killed in Franklin Park. There's been false information shared constantly, and we have no level of oversight. This isn't government, it's chaos. And we're only 9 months into a 4-year term. So yeah, we want transparency, we want accountability, we want oversight, but we want this to end, and we want people to have solutions rather than excuses. And what we know is that all these systems in place, your jock bros with their weapons, your drones, your helicopters, all these are the same weapons being built to basically attack every other population. We're just the first ones to be attacked. We've seen the rhetoric about trans folks, for women seeking reproductive health. This isn't a moment for one community, it's for all of us as a community to step up. And what does that look like? You've had protesters out here just trying to exercise their First Amendment rights. We've been pelted with pepper pellets, tear gas, rubber bullets. It's not how you treat your own people. It's not what government looks like. What we need you all to do, if you're out here watching, is to talk to your neighbors. There's a reason these losers are in the White House. It's because people feel alone, isolated, afraid, and disenfranchised. The only way that changes is talking to your neighbors, building community, hearing out the people you disagree with, so that they can remain and start getting back into the democratic process to get rid of this fake mock tyrant. And so we need everyone to do their part. It's why we're training people to do mutual aid, to do rapid response on the ground. The fact that we're teaching people to go record federal agents to tell you where we're at. We need to go backwards, not the way they're going backwards, but not in the direction they're taking us. And so I implore anybody out there, if you have time, talk to your neighbors, reach out to your local officials. I have confidence and hope that we endure and sustain, and that hope comes from everybody that's shown up here over the past month. We're not leaving until they leave, and we're going to be disciplined and show you what the First Amendment means, and show you that we're not going to give them the Fox News clips that they want, because we stand for this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderperson Vasquez. And just to emphasize, the community that has been built here is the best antidote to the hopelessness that I know that many of you feel. So if you're sitting at home and you're terrified, what's going on, what's happening, you see it, you know what's happening. Listen to the voice in the back of your head and show up. We're going to hear from Demi Palachek, who's here in her personal capacity but has extensive military and law enforcement experience, to talk about specifically escalations and lack of training that we've seen from these masked agents attacking protesters and their fellow Americans.
Good morning, my name is Demi Palachek, D-E-M-I, and Palachek, P-A-L-E-C-E-K. Thank you all for being here. It's the quietest I've ever seen ICE agents and the longest I've seen them leave us alone, so thank you. My name is Demi Palachek. I'm a lifelong activist, Latina, and Chicagoan, and I am in the Army National Guard. I have been for 12 years and counting, and I'm sick and tired of ICE terrorizing our communities. I may not be from Chicago, but this is the first place that I ever felt like home, the first place I ever felt loved. Chicago taught me what true love feels like. It's how we build communities. It's not through bloodlines, but it's through our neighbors. People come here to feel safe, to be themselves, to grow without apology. And we are beautifully diverse. And we don't just tolerate that, but we protect it. And we protect each other. So let me be clear. We do not need outsiders coming here and telling us how to police our own areas and divide our neighborhoods. We can take care of our own. For the last month, I've stood outside Broadview Detention Center every single Friday, protesting alongside families and neighbors and community members. Week after week, I watch little kids walk up to the detention doors, holding the hands of their older siblings, knocking on the doors and searching for their parents, begging for answers. And every single time, ICE slams the door in their face. That's why I keep coming back, because no one in our country should be treated like that. Every week, ICE escalates its violence against us. Peaceful protesters exercising our First Amendment rights. At first, they just ripped up our signs, but then they started shoving people, throwing people and protesters to the ground. They come in mob tactics and full-on tackles, dragging people away. They know that they cannot arrest us solely for protesting, especially peacefully. So instead, they drag us inside their property to charge us with felonies for trespassing, even though that's how they brought us inside. 2 weeks ago, I was grabbed, bruised, and shot with pepper balls, tear gas canisters, simply for helping another protester in need. Last week, snipers were on top, flooded the entire block with harmful gas, not just of peaceful protesters, but clergies, neighbors, and children. They have no regard for human life. The weapon up there right now, in the military, it's called spray and pray. I think we can all understand what that means, right? They are not here to be lawful or anything like that. They are here to harm. So these are not trained professionals. As a military member, I can tell you that the way they are handling weapons is dangerous and reckless. I've seen ICE agents with their fingers on the trigger of real M16s and real M9s and pointing them at us. They are trigger happy and no trigger discipline. They have no understanding of gas deployment, and this level of escalation and competence is just a matter of time before they kill innocent people. And for what? 70% of the people detained have no criminal record. And if ICE were doing something good for the community, then why are they at schools? Why are they at children drop-off lines? Why are they going to places of worship? It was never about lowering costs. If it was, we'd be seeing it lower in energy, healthcare, and grocery prices wouldn't be skyrocketing. This is about hurting immigrants as political lightning rods, using it for private prison companies and defensive contractors to cash in on all of our civil rights that they are stripping away. The 14th Amendment guarantees protection to all persons, not just citizens, but all persons. Yet today, journalists, peaceful protesters, Latino communities are being profiled, beaten, and arrested for just standing there or being based off what they look like. They want us to be afraid, they want us to be divided, because they can strip one group of our rights, they can strip multiple groups of our rights. I think back when I was a child learning about Germany in 1930, and I always wondered how ordinary people could just stay silent. I told myself I would have spoken up, I would have acted, I would have done something. Well, this is that moment, happening again in 2025. So I'm asking everyone listening, if you believe that you would have stood up against fascism back then, I need you to prove it now. Chicago thrives on love. We stand shoulder to shoulder across race, language, and status. And when we come for one, you come for all of us, and you have to stay out of Chicago, and you will have to face all of us together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Para explicar en español, Mike Rodriguez del Distrito Electoral 22. Mike?
Just very quickly, I like to start things out with a very much heartwarming thank you to all the organizers, the volunteers who have been here every day. They're in Little Village now, guarding our schools, in the 22nd Ward, and the whole city, really. We've got hundreds, if not thousands of people trying to bring a little bit more safety to our communities. Thank you so very much. TRP, Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, thank you for all your work. I can't do my job without y'all. Muy buenos días. Qué triste estamos aquí hoy día. Qué triste que tenemos atrás de nosotros, adentro de este edificio federal, cientos de personas, nuestras hermanas, nuestros hermanos, nuestros vecinos, que están encarcelados por razón de buscar trabajo, de buscar mejor futuro para su familia, para sus hijos, para sus nietos. Lo que queremos es transparencia y que el gobierno federal sea responsable, que el congresista Chuy García y la congresista Delia Ramírez tiene acceso a este lugar, a hacer investigación integral, de que ellos pueden probar de que sí tiene nuestra gente en manos, pues al menos con un poco de dignidad. Queremos que ellos se pueden meter a este edificio para hacer investigación integral. También queremos que este gobierno sea responsable y que sean más transparentes, de que sus esfuerzos sean, que le dan un poco más luz a nuestra comunidad, que podamos entender qué están haciendo de atrás. Pero ya sabemos, hoy día atrás de nosotros en este edificio, en el techo, tenemos un hombre, varios hombres con armas de este lento que están dirigidos a nosotros aquí. ¿Por qué? Porque queremos paz y justicia en nuestra comunidad, no guerra en nuestra comunidad. Y eso es lo que está trayendo terrorismo y guerra a nuestra comunidad, y estamos 100% en contra de esos esfuerzos, de esa agenda anti-latino. Yo soy bien orgulloso de servir a la comunidad más latina en Chicago, más hispano, más inmigrante, y estamos sufriendo por esta agenda anti-inmigrante, anti-latino, y yo digo, ya basta con esa agenda. Sí se puede, mi gente. Muchas gracias.
Next up, we have Akeisha Lee, a Southside resident, a Chicagoan, who's here to tell us about what we all already know, that this will not stay in Broadview, that this will not stay focused at the Latino community, and that it is coming for us all.
Good morning. My name is Akeisha Lee. I'm a proud resident of Chicago Southside. For a month of Fridays, I've been out here at 1930 Beach Street because I'm a firm believer in two things: that no person can be illegal on stolen land, and two, when we unite, we can topple any oppressor. For the better part of the month, I've seen with my own eyes ICE's disregard to people's safety. I've heard them try to intimidate people. And it doesn't matter whether those people are protesters, the surrounding community, or those they are detaining. They are committed to evading accountability. On one of my first Fridays here, a few reporters asked me why I, as a black woman, felt compelled to take a stand against deportations and dehumanizations of immigrant communities. It's obvious that black people have a vested interest in standing alongside those targeted for the color of their skin and where they come from. But ICE, the Trump administration, and all those who benefit from white supremacy want us to view our struggles as separate. They are not. I told the reporter that ICE will not stop the Latino communities. Today, we are past the point of warnings. It is happening right now. This week, black Southside residents were pulled from their homes, zip-tied, and driven away by ICE. Children from Latino, Afro-Latino, and black families are fearful of going to school and going to work. People in Broadview are being told to not answer their doors. People know that the federal government has given masked, armed terrorists authority to harass them without reason, consequence, or conscience. We're turning our attention to Broadview today because it's where our neighbors are ending up at the moment. But we know this will and is spreading across Cook County. We must take a stand now and demand transparency and accountability. We must care enough about who it's happening to today and the harm they're experiencing today, and not wait until conditions erode further, until more people disappear, until more families are harmed. Thank you.
Our final speaker today, we're going to hear from Alderperson Maria Haddon, representing the 49th Ward, the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. Alderperson Haddon, next up.
Good morning, everybody. It's Maria Haddon, M-A-R-I-A-H-A-D-D-E-N. I represent the 49th Ward in Chicago City Council, and I get to co-chair our city's 19-member Progressive Caucus with Alderman Vasquez, who you heard from earlier. I left Rogers Park and Chicago this morning with my wife to come to Broadview because what happens in Broadview matters to Chicago. You heard from the other speakers today about the many reasons we're here. So I'll just repeat a few things. One, we want ICE out of our cities. We want ICE out of this facility. We want ICE out of Broadview. We want ICE and border control and the militarized Gestapo authorized by the Trump administration to stop disappearing people from our communities. We want them to stop using extrajudicial force to harass and terrorize the American people. We did not authorize them to do that. Please know that what they're doing is illegal. It is unconstitutional. Every day, our law department has to respond to attempts at illegal action in the city of Chicago. And this is happening in major cities all around the country. For the mayor and the elected representatives and the people of Broadview, I am so sorry this facility is here. Because most of us don't live in Chicago's, New York's, Denver's, Los Angeles, Miami's. Most of us live in places like Broadview, Illinois, where our elected officials don't have the resources to support us, to defend us, to file lawsuits or injunctions. Most of us as Americans are being bullied, we're being taken advantage of, and it doesn't matter what political party you are in, your rights are being chipped away every day. Every single day that this administration is in office, you are losing rights. You are becoming less American. They are stealing our country from us. One executive order, one slight bending of the rules at a time. So I'm here in Broadview and not in Chicago to stand for Chicago, because it's not just immigration enforcement. As you heard from our previous speaker, they had a raid on about a 100-unit apartment building at 75th and South Shore, and I want to thank all of the local media coverage. I want to thank our media, our press. Thank you guys. I learned about this from, I think, ABC7. I saw an ABC7 report the day after it happened. And then I saw CBS, and I saw PBS, and I saw NBC, and Block Club, and print media. And please keep doing what you can to do your job for as long as you can do your job, because the national media isn't covering the story. The national media isn't telling you that extrajudicial forces not authorized by Congress flew Black Hawk helicopters and landed at Navy Pier. And then at 1 in the morning, they hovered over a residential neighborhood in an American city, and they repelled soldiers from Black Hawks, and they busted into people's homes. They took citizens and non-citizens, they didn't know. They ripped them from their homes. They zip-tied them. They went in without a warrant, and they did it because they could. So we're saying they can. Stand with us. Stand with Broadview. Stand with Chicago. Stand with the organizers who are fighting. Join us, because while it's not your rights being taken today, it'll be your rights being taken tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson Haddon. That is our lineup for today. You have a number of people who are here who are prepared to speak to you, to continue to contextualize the brutality that has been waged on our community. And I just have to say, I feel so lucky to be a Chicagoan. I know that we feel that so deeply, but when I look across the country and I think, why are people doing what? I know my community will continue to show up. We will continue to be here, and we're not leaving until they do. Thank you all.
And border enforcement leader Gregory Bovino come out. That's when the first arrest happened. We saw 2 immediately, another one after that. We saw 2 during that press conference, and then another 2 right now. So I think we're up to 6 or 7. Somebody count that for me. But we're watching here at the 25th Street entrance as people are chanting. They're banging on buckets. Illinois State Police now in the middle of the street. This is in the middle of the road. You're looking at this. Protesters are face to face with officers right now. Some people are holding up American flags. And just for people who haven't been to this area, who don't know what Broadview looks like, this is a residential street. There's homes on this side. We're watching a protester being led away by Illinois State Police here in the sheriff's office. People are geared up here. They're making a lot of noise. Again, really things started to escalate after we saw Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on the roof of the facility, and after Gregory Bovino came out. There's about 150 protesters out here right now. Again, we've seen several arrests. There's a Broadview Fire Department ambulance that just came on the scene, and I do want to mention I saw Norwood Fire Department sent an ambulance here earlier as well. So a total of 2 ambulances so far here on the scene, and they're actually being directed by Illinois State Police to go towards the crowd. So I'm not sure if there's somebody injured or somebody needs medical attention. Again, this is all unfolding live right now. We're doing our best to show you exactly what is happening here. There's about 150 protesters here in the middle of the street. An incredible police presence here, state and local, and there's also federal agents here. I would say over a dozen police and state vehicles on the street right now. Again, this is a residential neighborhood, and we're about a block and a half away from the other entrance of the ice processing facility that's on Beach Street. That's where that fence is that we saw go up, and that's where the barricades are, the concrete barriers that have designated zones for protesters. Those barriers do not exist here on this side of 25th Street, so that's why you're seeing a little bit of controlled chaos, I should say, by state police and the local police department. They're doing their best to keep people off the road in the middle of the street. Very fluid situation right now. There are digital signs actually on the street that say stay off of the street. That is the goal of local police being here. I've talked to a number of local law enforcement officials. Go ahead, Jackie. Yeah, Jackie. Especially from where we're standing, I would say, about 15 feet away from the group of protesters, and we're doing that so that we can safely report on what's happening and not get caught in this crowd. But I do believe that it's when these clashes happen, they're being given commands and orders from agents and police, and when those orders are not obeyed, that's really when we're seeing these arrests happen. I can't confirm that. I can't say for sure that's why these protesters are being arrested, but just from my experience of being out here and seeing people be detained, it's because they're getting face-to-face with some law enforcement officials that are trying to get people out of the street or giving them commands, and those commands are not being met. But Jackie, right now, no way to confirm. We haven't been able to see exactly why people are being detained or what is happening when those clashes are taking place. But you can see we have a shot right now of that man that's being detained. Both local Broadview police officers have him in handcuffs, and there's ICE agents surrounding him as well in camo. There's people yelling around us to let him go. Again, we are bringing this to you live, so if anybody yells any profanity,
I'm zoomed in as far as I can.
Advise our viewers of that, but this is at least the 6th or 7th arrest that we've seen, again, just in the last 30 minutes. Jackie, Audrina.
When we get back around to where I can see it. Those were medics. They came out of the ambulance. They're treating one of the people that they detained in handcuffs.
So far?
I think it's close to 10.
I've had that job for 6 years. I'm November 11th. It's from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a job. Proud of it. Oh, go,
Yeah, so I'm glad you guys were able to see where the medics were, because they detained that person and took them past those bushes and we lost sight of him. So I'm glad we were able to get that view from Skywatch, but we just right now are watching federal officers in the middle of the street. They're armed, and Broadview police are in the mix here with federal agents and sheriff's deputies and state police. And I'll just say from being out here the past few weeks, guys, Broadview police, their presence out here, they've told me directly, I've heard from officers who say they're here for their residents that live here, that are driving around these streets, for the residents that live just across the street from here. They're making sure that people are getting the medical attention that they need while they're on the street. And you saw there moments ago, as that person was being detained, there were 2 Broadview police officers around him, and then there was 2 federal agents. Those Broadview police officers are the ones that likely got a paramedic out here and called their fire department in to get these medics in here. So there's a lot of moving parts, multiple law enforcement agencies that are here, a lot of them working together and a lot of them working separately in different entities, because they are different agencies, local, state, and federal. Right now, you're looking at another clash. We're watching as protesters continue to push back. And the more people that get detained and arrested, the louder these protesters get. There's some Illinois state police officers I'm watching in the middle of the crowd that are on a knee, and they're putting on their gas masks. They're getting ready for whatever is ahead here. And really what we're seeing on the ground here, guys, is a lot of people holding signs, a lot of people waving American flags. There's people here banging on buckets. A lot of people have their phones out recording what's happening. There's also a lot of people that are yelling at local law enforcement, saying shame on you, calling them losers, and other things. But really, these clashes that we've been seeing, to what I heard Jackie say just a few moments ago, this is really the first time where we've seen different law enforcement agencies on so many different levels on every corner of the street here. Again, a residential area, and this all started on the other side of the facility on Beach Street and Lexington over there, where it's a little more industrial and there's no homes directly next to the facility where that fence went up. That's where that press conference was happening this morning, where activists and elected officials were bringing out their concerns about what's been going on here the past couple of weeks. And about an hour before that press conference started, at 8 o'clock, protesters came to this side on 25th Street and Harvard Street. This is more of a public entrance. There's no barriers or concrete barricades that are here, so protesters are moving around freely, but again, they are being contained by law enforcement to the grass and being kept off the street. This is the first time that I've seen digital signs in the street here that say stay off of the street. Again, we're watching as protesters are clashing with police, a lot of them yelling in their faces. Have not seen anyone detained within just the last minute or so, but I know within the last 30 minutes, Jackie Audrina, we've seen at least 8 or 9 people being led away in handcuffs.
And Estelle, we do want to cut in here real quick because our camera has its lens right now on Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who appears to be talking to Greg Bovino. You can see as she is getting into that SUV right now, or it looks like she might be talking to a few more people at the moment.
We did get word that she was going to be here, not only from our sources, but also from Governor Pritzker, who said he had heard from media sources. With her here, though, I mean, we don't know if she's going to speak, but of course we will be ready if she does. I know the governor really wants to hear from her about the ICE activity in the area. He says he wants to hold her accountable. He wants information on her department's actions, why they're doing it, why they're targeting specific areas like the building in South Shore. It looks like she's getting into the SUV. And
it looks like she was just speaking to Benny Johnson as well as Greg Bovino.
And we're just going to check and see if she ends up leaving this facility. We did see her on the roof within the last hour, kind of checking things out and watching the crowd from above. But we will follow her movements to see if she leaves the area. And then, of course, we'll keep check on her whereabouts throughout the day. We do want to go to Asal right now. And I hear that chanting continuing. But as we see Kristi Noem here. Is there any response can you tell from your vantage point, Estelle, if people have noticed that she is there? Because if they know that, I mean, they're definitely going to want to make sure that she hears them.
So far, Audrina, I have not seen that people have noticed that she's here. People are chanting USA right now. And we believe the reason why protesters were pushed so far back compared to what we saw about 30 minutes ago is because Noem and Bovino were getting ready to come out. When we saw them on the roof about 2 hours ago, we believed that at one point they were going to be coming out, and I think that's also what protesters believed, and that's why they came to this entrance, because they believed that at any point this caravan was going to come out, and I think we're about to watch that happen in real time. You guys just mentioned, and again, you guys are able to see different vantage points than I am since I'm low here on the ground, but I believe this is her caravan. You guys just watched her and Bovino get into these SUVs, and they're starting to come out now.
Yeah, exactly. This would explain the big law enforcement presence that we've seen in the area. I mean, this explains why we've known here at the facility, checking things out, getting her eye on things.
And now you have the 2 camera shots of Secretary Kristi Noem, 2 black SUVs pulling into that intersection that is flanked on all sides by protesters. You can see the law enforcement still blocking the street. But let's actually just listen in for a moment and listen to the sounds of protesters and law enforcement.
Yeah, so if you guys can hear me, it appears that a lot of these protesters did just spot her leaving. The people who were able to see her caravan go through, they're holding up their middle fingers to this caravan that's driving by. They're making a lot of noise, some people yelling USA, others yelling profanities. And I think this is really the boiling point. This is what people were waiting for. They wanted to spot this caravan leaving and have their voices heard here. I mean, we've watched protesters yell at ICE vehicles and people who are being detained brought here in white vans and black Sprinter vans. But really, when we see these government officials with the administration here, that's when these protesters really start getting loud. And right now, in this moment, things quieted down. Just as soon as that caravan pulled away, things got quiet. That really tells you they were making noise specifically because Noem and Bovino were driving by. Jackie, Audrina.
2 black SUVs pull into a parking lot, and it was completely shaded by the trees, so you couldn't really see from Skywatch right now, our vantage point. It looks like one of the black SUVs is turning around. Not sure if they're going to be heading into the facility or if they may be making their way out of the neighborhood from a different area. At this point, from Skywatch, we're really not able to see exactly where those black SUVs are, but
what you can see, though, is how close these homes are to all of this activity happening right outside of their doors. I mean, can't imagine for these families just watching this all unfold here with such a big presence. So what would you say as far as the crowd numbers out there of protesters? Are we talking more than 100 people at this point? What's the numbers looking like?
Yeah, I would say at least 150 people are out here now. And I will mention there are protesters that we have heard that are against ICE, and there's also counter-protesters. There's a couple of people that I recognize that I've seen here over the past couple of weeks that say they're here to stand up for ICE, that they believe that the hate that these ICE agents are getting are unacceptable. Actually, one of those gentlemen is standing in front of our cameras and yelling right now. But we're seeing protesters and counter-protesters, and again, just a massive show of law enforcement out here. It's hard to tell who is who. The only way we can tell who are federal agents is because they are wearing the camo, and they're wearing the camouflage, and then you have the state police officers who are in their uniforms that we're used to seeing, and then also Broadview police. Again, about 100 to 150 protesters out here, and as far as the other entrance is concerned, my team on that side says that there's really nothing happening on Beach Street. I'm sure you guys were able to see that vantage point from Skywatch as well. but things have quieted down just within the last couple of minutes after Secretary Noem and Bovino drove away from here in that caravan, but a really large presence of law enforcement and protesters still out here.
Okay. So I am curious too, have you been able to see any of the folks who were speaking at the press conference? Obviously we heard from Alderwoman Maria Haddon just about 20 minutes ago. Have any of those folks joined this side of the protest? Because we know they're on the other side of the facility.
I have not seen them, actually. I did speak to a few of those organizers, and just as I'm looking around, I haven't seen any of them come to this side yet, but it's likely they will eventually come here. A lot of these elected officials and community activists have come out here and been a part of press conferences or given their statements to the press and done interviews and really joined these protesters. But Jackie, just right now in this moment, I have not seen the people that you were listening to in that press conference come to this entrance just yet.
All right, well, I know we didn't take the full press conference live, but we were listening and monitoring that as well. And what we heard from a lot of them is what they said they were going to be speaking about is full transparency regarding the detention conditions, the detainee locations, and also where people are being brought to. Now, from Skywatch right now, what you're looking at is the people sitting on the railing there. They all have their hands behind their back in handcuffs or some type of zip ties. Those are the ones taken into custody by law enforcement there on the scene.
I've counted at least 11 people in this shot right now. And I know we have some earlier footage too showing some of the clashes that happened as these people were being taken into custody. But again, they're sitting sort of on the railway or railing of the parking lot after being put into handcuffs by ICE agents earlier. So let's get, this is the other, this is the earlier video from Skywatch as we saw some of these people, again, being taken into custody. And as Asal had mentioned earlier, you know, these law enforcement officers were lining the streets and trying to create a barrier between them and obviously creating that barrier so that Secretary Noem could make her way through in those SUVs. Now we sort of understand why they were putting up those human barriers, but she believes that the folks that were arrested were likely, you know, stepping over the barrier, and that's why they were taken into custody. That's not confirmed, but that's from her previous reporting experience the last couple weeks.
And this time around today, we have seen several different agencies. We've seen ISP, Cook County Sheriff. Of course, we have the ICE agents out there patrolling by roof and also on the ground. And what we've seen over the weeks is these clashes. Of course, on Saturday, there were multiple arrests. We've been speaking with those who have been taken into custody outside of the Broadview ICE facility, and they've talked about what they've experienced and what happened after being taken into custody. Some of them released, some of them charged federally, but we haven't seen the clashes ourselves of what happened prior to these people being taken into custody here. But what you're seeing is that big law enforcement presence that Asal was talking about lining the street here. Two things were
guys,
planned.
and I will say, if you guys can hear me. Go
ahead, Asal.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I will say I did talk to an attorney just yesterday who told me about his experience when he was detained. He's a 68-year-old man. He said he was standing in front of that fence on Beach Street when it opened and Gregory Bovino came out and agents were yelling at him to get out of the street. He says when he was taken into custody, he said he was surprised at how pleasant his experience actually was. He said that they treated him well. They gave him dinner. He got a phone call. He was in a holding room. It was not a jail cell. It was more of a room inside of that facility. And he also told me that in the process of him getting put in that room, he did go past another room that was a much larger room, and he said he saw maybe 20 to 30 migrants that were packed into that room. He said he believes his experience is much different from those being detained by ICE because of their status status or as a part of this immigration enforcement operation. He says that people who are being detained, demonstrators here, he says he's being treated a lot differently than he thought he was going to be treated. I asked him if he had any fears as he was being arrested, and he said it was just really about the unknown, but they were treating him with respect, and he actually was not federally charged. We know at least 5 people are facing federal charges after they were arrested and detained this weekend. He says he was one of the ones detained. He actually was detained and then joined by the Air Force veteran Dana Briggs that we've been reporting on, and also journalist Steve Held that was detained. He said he was with them in the same holding cell. They were transferred, and the attorney I spoke to, says about after 8 hours he was released. He was able to just walk out. So just wanted to give you guys that one firsthand experience that I heard from one protester that was detained this weekend.
Estelle, thank you for that. What's really interesting about this is that just last night we saw concrete barriers being put up on the opposite side of this facility to create a designated zone that was supposed to be a safe zone for protesters, a First Amendment area for them to be able to peacefully protest and speak out about everything. Now, the barriers, we're told, were requested by Broadview police. They were put in place by Illinois State Police, and they showed this restricted area, that would allow access for emergency vehicles and making sure that the operations could continue at the ICE facility. Because how this the first clashes we ever saw outside of this facility were protesters blocking trucks from getting in and out of that ICE processing center. And that is when we started to see the arrests. And since then, we've seen those clashes continue to peak.
And if we can ask our producer right now, so the camera on the left, both of these images are still live, right? We're not showing any of the previous footage. Okay, so did we just see the black SUVs moving again on the left side of the screen? Okay, so we did, just to sort of catch people up if they are just tuning in right now, about 20 minutes to a half an hour ago, we saw Security Secretary Kristi Noem outside of 2 black SUVs speaking to the conservative podcast host Benny Johnson, and they were also talking to Greg Bovino as well, who's been very involved in a lot of the National Guard deployment in Los Angeles, as well as all of the immigration crackdown efforts here in the Chicago area. So we saw Secretary Noem standing outside the black SUVs. She jumped into one of them, and the black SUVs sort of made their way through the protesters, between the protesters, as all of the protesters are lined up in that residential neighborhood. And we do have that video, so if we can pull it up, you guys can watch as that happened about 20 or so minutes ago. And now we sort of understand why law enforcement had created this sort of human boundary lining up outside of it. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see where the protesters who have been arrested so far this morning are being, I imagine, temporarily held. You can see their arms behind their back as they were handcuffed a little bit earlier.
And we've seen about 150 protesters on scene here from both our Skywatch and our crews on the scene. They're keeping an eye on this, and we have seen some tiffs and some scuffles there on scene. Then we've seen many people being taken away in handcuffs. Again, you can see them here on that railing being held. Some are taken into custody, released pretty quickly, and not charged with anything federally. Some are facing federal charges, at least from the most recent protest on Saturday, where we saw multiple people being taken into custody.
And it is interesting. I mean, we've been getting this really good aerial shot from Skywatch this morning. Again, this is a live picture you're looking at right now, but of the folks who have been arrested so far this morning in a parking lot right outside of that ICE facility in Broadview. But the aerial shots that we've seen of the neighborhood right around this facility and all of the protesters gathered on either side of those intersecting streets. It's so interesting because I know a lot of the folks that our reporters have been talking to for the last couple of weeks. I know Dave Savini reported on this just a day or two ago, that a lot of folks in this neighborhood do not want to see all of this action taking place. I mean, this is disruptive, and this is sort of an interruption to their daily lives to have so much activity activity between the federal agents and the protesters and everything that's going on. And so it's interesting to be able to see that shot, because this is different, a different space, a different location from where the boundaries, the barriers were put up last night. And the intention of that was to try to keep protesters and the federal agents from clashing. And now we see them moving to the other side. That was called the First Amendment zone that they tried to construct last night. And these protesters are on the other side of it now.
Yeah, and Jackie, I think it's important to note here that we have seen this relationship between ICE and the village of Broadview pretty tense. I mean, just this week, village leaders, including the mayor, the police chief there, they addressed what they said were ICE's unprovoked, repeated use of chemical weapons being deployed. Asal was also part of that. She's talked about that. So one of the issues is that the village here is also trying to protect people who are going to peacefully protest and speak out. And so we've seen this tension. And so as you talk about the residents who live nearby, I mean, police are there, local police are also there, and there's some protection that has to happen for the everyday person who's just walking by. We do have Chris Habermill in Skywatch right now with an eye on this from above. Chris, from your vantage point, can we tell just how big the scope is of just people and law enforcement? Chris, can you hear us?
Do you need this? Do you want water?
We're gonna wait a moment just to see. I know we have Asal there, but we're also working on getting Chris here for us, because he can give us that view from high above from Skywatch and give us a better understanding of what's happening. Because I know that from these two shots right now, it's a little hard to tell how many people are out there, how big the law enforcement presence is out there.
Let's try to check in though with Asal Razai again right now, because I know about 15-20 minutes ago, Asal, you had mentioned that the temperature had been toned down just a little bit after those black SUVs had passed with Secretary Noem inside. We're still hearing chants from the cameras right now. Where would you say the temperature stands at this current moment?
Yeah, Jackie, I would say it's back up just a little bit. So you see these agents standing directly in front of our cameras right now. Just a few moments ago, you see them pointing people out. There's a couple of demonstrators here that are dressed in all black, and they have their faces completely covered, and it looks like they're a concern to these agents. They keep pointing out at them, and protesters or other demonstrators are standing in front of them. It appears to protect them, but for some reason these agents are pointing out specific people, especially people that are dressed in all black and have their faces completely covered. So there seems to be some sort of internal verbal investigation right now happening between some of these agents, and you can see many of them are just standing in the middle of the street here. And once you guys go to Skywatch, you'll see that these agents are standing in the middle of the street and keeping protesters out of the middle of the street. We believe why there is such a big presence from Illinois State Police, the Sheriff's Office, and from Broadview Police here. They're here to keep people out of the street. Again, things have escalated again over just the past couple of minutes or so after we saw Secretary Noem leave. Things got quiet, as you mentioned, Jackie, but agents have now come closer to where we are. We are directly across the street from the entrance on 25th Street. We're standing in a line here with other members of the press, and you can see, I mean, some of these federal agents are standing maybe 5 or 10 feet away from us at this point, getting really close to this press line, and it's likely they start pushing us back. We're prepared to move if we have to, but at this moment in time, it looks like they are pointing out specific people, and they're keeping their eye on the crowd and on demonstrators that are on the outskirts, and it looks like one person is being arrested right now. Point that out to me, Lou. Where do you see that? Four people?
Yeah, we see about 4 people being taken into custody. So, Asal, because you have, I want you to just reset for a second. I know you I want you to keep your eyes on what's going on. Since you can only see part of the facility, let's go to Skywatch. Chris can get a better picture for us of what's going on around the full scope of the facility. Chris, I know local police departments have made it clear they're not assisting ICE, but rather working to help with crowd control and keeping people safe. What are you seeing as far as the crowd from your vantage point?
Well, indeed, and basically law enforcement on the state, county, and municipal level have been brought in to provide an extra security buffer and bring in personnel to augment what the federal agents have been dealing with out there and vice versa. We've got a lot of protesters there. A lot of folks have streamed in. Word got out that Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, was be visiting today. Obviously, that has escalated tensions quite a bit here on the ground level. And what you've been seeing here is a very unusual kind of a street, the way this is configured. That on the right side of your screen there, that's 25th Avenue and Harvard Street. And as you can see, this is from Skywatch looking toward the east right now and coming out of that residential area into kind of a business block, as Asal has been describing here. She's been out there for a long time, that there is kind of an industrial corridor that runs along the end of that street. And literally Harvard Street becomes part of a parking lot. And as you can see on the left, we've got agents walking through a slide gate. And what that slide gate is right at the end of where Harvard Street meets Beach Street, just to the south of the ICE facility. Literally, that gate is normally closed. It's normally cordoned off, normally closed, in order to kind of seal off that end of the facility and that end of Beach Street. There are a couple of businesses down there. Skywatch in the full picture now. We've got people up on the roof of a business which is right there, literally in the middle of the whole thing. Down at the base of this particular business, we've seen when Kristi Noem came out, and I believe right there down, you see where it says arrested as ICE activity increases. Right at the bottom there are those black SUVs that Kristi Noem and I believe Greg Bovino may have been in that little motorcade that was there. When they came out of the ICE facility, they literally turned north on 25th Avenue, hung a quick left into the parking lot of that business, and have repositioned there close to the door. So they may actually still be on scene there. So that being the case, with that motorcade still in position, you're seeing local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, state law enforcement, county law enforcement, the local municipality in all versions here out in force in order to provide some sort of a security buffer. Obviously, we've got a lot of people that are on the street there that are very vocal today, and as you have seen, may have come up against law enforcement orders to not cross a certain position, not engage in a certain action here. So we've got agents that are coming in and out still. They're conducting their business as best they can. Over on the right, we've got people that are up on the business there. Don't know if we've got security agents that are up there. We may have other visiting individuals there that are highly placed in the government that are watching this, perhaps coming out on the roof to get a secured view there where they don't have to worry about engaging anybody down at ground level there. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. We've got 25th Avenue that's going to be closed down till further notice from just south of the Ike, right at Lexington, down to Roosevelt. And there's more law enforcement that obviously has been brought in there with their vehicles that are parked out on the street. You see down on 25th Avenue there are homes right across the street. You've got industry on one side, homes on the other. Literally, Skywatch is over the top of the ICE facility on Beach Street. Now, very early this morning, during the overnight hours, you saw that there was the plan to give protesters an avenue cordoned off by those jersey walls, those concrete barriers that can be brought in position in order to provide some sort of hard protection for both people that are going to and from the ICE facility and also the protesters on the other side. But now everybody has moved over to 25th Avenue, which has been, for the last week or so, the ingress and egress point for agents and other vehicles going to that ICE facility to get in and out, literally going down the end of Harvard Street, which goes all the way to the south end of Beach Street, which dead ends into a couple couple of businesses. They would turn right after checking in with the agents that are running the guard post right there, the slide gate access where you would check in with them in order to get authority to move forward into the ICE facility. So they've actually have a displaced perimeter on Beach Street from the dead end where that slide gate is at the end of Harvard Street and Lexington, just to the north of where the actual property line is, where we've seen for the last few weeks people going in and out. You can see now on the left we've got a view of agents up on the roof of the ICE facility there. Obviously there is a launching projectile launching machinery up there, perhaps for pepper balls or what have you, and to increase accuracy over a longer distance you have it up on a tripod in order to give it a little bit more immediate access as well, coming and going there on the, here's your full screen here, and you can see the roof scuttle hatch is open. We've got some seats up there and what have you. So again, we've got agents that are up there that have been up there for days and days keeping an eye on things. You also have a portable light unit up there as well in order to kind of at night preclude people watching what's going up on the roof there. So on the right now, down at ground level, obviously we've got people here who are very vocal, that are speaking out, saying things toward the agents that have gathered here. Obviously everybody is in heavy protective gear, faces covered. A lot of these officers and agents have gas masks either at the ready in those black bags that are strapped to their legs for immediate access in order to get those on in any kind of a situation, or they're actually wearing them right now. So officers are it seems to have calmed down a little bit, but they are still providing a security perimeter, security buffer for people going in and out. You can see that white vehicle, that SUV that just went by. We're literally on ground level. We're on 25th Avenue. There's an SUV, silver SUV right now, that is looking west along Harvard Street. So you see where Harvard Street, an actual residential side street, becomes part of a parking lot. It's a very unusual configuration, very unusual situation. But seeing this from Skywatch, kind of taking a look, see how things kind of shake out here. And at the end of Harvard Street, literally that would be the south or the northwest corner of the parking lot of a business, is a slide gate that basically fences off the end of Beach Street from the end of Harvard Street. So normally those two streets don't interact, but in a situation, obviously they've got it kind of baked into the how they have the perimeter security set up, that you actually have that slide fence that can be opened, that slide gate, and you can see that that SUV checking into the agents there. They'll make a right turn and head north on Beach Street to get access to the ICE facility. There are also businesses that are back there. So we have employees that are going into that parking lot, employees that have to go check in with those agents at the far end there in order to get to the two businesses which are south of the ICE facility. So there are a lot of dynamics going on. We've got people that have to get in and out to work. We've got protesters that are affecting their First Amendment rights. We've got officers there that have been brought in order to provide some semblance of security and kind of hopefully kind of keep a lid on everything that's going on there and have a physical presence there, which obviously has been exponentially stepped up today with a visit by Kristi Noem, of course, and she was meeting with Greg Bovino and other people that were at the site there as well. So once again, we've got tactical units that are moving in and out of that facility. We've got protesters. We've had the press conference. There are a lot of things that are going on in this area, and that is on the left now. You can see those are those barriers that were brought in overnight. There's a couple of rectangular long, kind of like a pit, what you would call it, where you would put people that you don't want migrating into the roadway or getting close to a particular facility or what have you. Off in the distance there, if you look at that picture on the left, There's a Broadview SUV with its lights on, parked perpendicular across, that's Beach Street right there, looking south. And in the back, behind there, you've got the a white van right at the entrance to, and here we've gone full screen now, to the ICE facility. Originally, when all of these protests began some weeks ago, we actually had protesters in front of where that van is right now. Everybody's been pushed back by the installation of that fencing that runs across Beach Street just north of the ICE facility, which you can see that brown building there behind the SUV there on the other side of that security fence. And then in order to try and provide some sort of a place for people to assemble and continue to exercise their rights to assemble and protest and what have you and voice their opinions, they were provided these rectangular sections. There's one there, which would be on the east side of Beach Street. There's another one on the west side there, just out of frame there on the left. But everybody moved over out of that. You can see there's hardly anybody over there, but most everybody went over to 25th Avenue today to gather at the other entrance at 25th and Harvard. So a lot of things going on. 25th is not the place to be right now. If you want to, if you have business to conduct in the area, I'd kind of postpone it for a little while, hold off a little bit till things start to cool down here. And we don't know for a fact whether or not Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is still on site, but that motorcade that she was traveling in was still parked close by. Yeah.
Okay, good to know that you saw that vehicle parked close by. Jackie?
Well, yeah, we just want to mention that we have reached out to the Department of Homeland Security. First thing this morning, we just reached out once again to ask what the purpose of Secretary Kristi Noem's visit is today, because we know why the protesters showed up this morning. I mean, they had mentioned they had already had this press conference planned for earlier this morning. They were going to ask ICE why they say they're holding people for days or even weeks at a time. They were also talking about the conditions that detainees are experiencing once they've been put into custody. So we understand why the protesters were out there this morning, or at least the group that were a part of the press conference earlier. What we do not have an answer to yet is why the secretary was in town today. We don't know why the conservative podcast host Benny Johnson was here. Greg Bovino was there as well. We saw them getting into the black SUVs earlier. Again, Chris mentioned we don't know exactly where they are now, where those black SUVs went to. We do want to take a moment to reset right now to give just us in the control room a second to reset with Skywatch.
Yeah, I will say, though, that what we do know is this facility has been the epicenter of a lot of the activity, the ICE activity here in Chicagoland, because it's an ICE processing facility. In the distance, you can actually see those, excuse me, those silver fencing. That was put up after the first clashes that we've seen. And I just want to note that in Broadview, this has become really tense between the local officials there and the ICE officials there. The mayor of Broadview, Katrina Thompson, the police chief, Thomas Mills, they all just this week have spoken really harshly about the actions happening outside of this Broadview ICE facility. I know even today we've seen more than a dozen people taken into custody, but they specifically referenced the use of chemical agents and tear gas on protesters outside of there. They quoted the relentless deployment of tear gas, pepper spray, and mace at this facility is endangering nearby village residents. It's harming police officers, firefighters, citizens. But in response to that, since then, the acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, also responded to them, denouncing that, saying that the mayor is distorting reality, pointing the finger in the wrong direction, saying that the ICE agents are protecting her community from real threats, while also facing violence against them, including at the Broadview facility. So we've seen and heard two very different viewpoints of what's happening outside the facility.
And adding directly to that point, we just mentioned that we have not heard from the Department of Homeland Security about why Kristi Noem is in town today. Broadview Police, Audrina, to your point, they have told us that they also did not have any communication about Kristi Noem's visit today. So, of course, as Chris had mentioned, all of the shots we've been seeing, you're seeing ICE agents clearly fully ready for for this important visit, but Broadview police were not ready for this visit. They did not know. There was no communication between federal law enforcement and local law enforcement.
But we do know that the police department, the local Broadview Police Department, has made it very clear that they are not assisting ICE. They are working to help with crowd control for the safety of residents. And right now, I just want to give a heads up to Asal because we do want to come back to you. I know over the last hour plus, we've seen about 150 protesters out there. Are we still seeing that big of a crowd out there? And have you seen any more clashes or scuffles or arrests?
Yeah, guys, I will say that we've seen the crowd get a little bit smaller just from where I'm standing, but they've also spread out a little bit. So that could be a contributing factor as to why I'm not seeing as many people. We're still hearing people chanting. We're still seeing officers standing in the middle of the street. And I'm so happy that we brought Chris in and he was able to give you that vantage point from Skywatch and really break down the lay of the land here, the way this facility looks and what things really look like from that vantage point, because you can see how there is that pocket of an industrial area and then this residential area. Again, we're watching here as agents are standing in the street. We haven't seen anyone get arrested within the last couple of minutes, but the last time that you guys were on my shot, we were watching as 4 people were being taken into that gate. And I just want to note that once we were able to look closer at that footage, we realized that they were being taken into the facility, detained by what appeared to be FBI agents. And I personally have not seen FBI agents here on the ground, so that was the first time I've seen FBI agents out here, at least with that wording on their uniforms. Again, as Chris mentioned, as we've been talking about all morning, there's really just a mix of different agencies out here. I've seen different fire departments, ambulances, state police is out here, the sheriff's department, along with federal agents and local police. And right now, the crowd has gotten a little smaller as far as what you're looking at, but the presence of police has not gotten any smaller. So right now we know that agents are here to keep these protesters on the side of this road. Local law enforcement is here to make sure that people aren't getting in the middle of the street. Again, we don't know what the circumstances are around the arrests that we've seen this morning, but some really intense moments unfolded as people were being taken into custody. Some people were treated here by paramedics on the scene. We saw at least one time some type of chemical agent being deployed right before Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino came out of the gates and before Kristi Noem came out. That's really the highest point of escalation. We saw officers pushing protesters back, but a notable difference in size, at least from where I'm standing, this grassy area that you guys see. This is actually in front of one of the businesses Chris was describing. People are gathered, demonstrators in the lawn there, and I will mention that there are anti-ICE protesters and there are also counter protesters here in support of the federal government's presence here and the immigration enforcement operation that they've been carrying out. Again, the reason why these protests have been really focused in on this facility is because this is the processing facility. This is where a lot of the people that are being detained all around the city of Chicago and surrounding suburbs have been brought to here. Protesters have been here. Some people we've seen even sleeping in their cars and being here all hours of the day, protesting outside of this facility, telling us that they're here to speak out for those people who have been detained here this morning. This has been the largest presence of law enforcement, different agencies we've seen so far since protesters started coming here weeks ago. I'll send it back to you guys.
Asal, thank you. And we do want to mention, Audrina mentioned it earlier, but we are doing our best to keep any profanity and any cursing out of the anything that you may be hearing or seeing. We're trying to keep it away from our screens, but it's very difficult with cameras on the ground, as you can see. So we're doing our best, but if you catch anything, we do apologize for that.
And on our end, we just turned the audio down on the camera that's picking up the audio from those protesters and demonstrators out there. Now, because we had Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on site, we got eyes on her. We saw that she was on the roof of the facility. She was around the exterior of the facility. I do want to note that Governor J.B. Pritzker has been saying over the last 24 hours that he wants to hear from Kristi Noem directly about her department's actions in Illinois. He specifically said that if she comes here, which she did, that he wants public accountability for the actions. And look, here, I just want to note this armored vehicle and an agent coming out the top of it. I don't know what he's doing, but I don't know if he's waving off. Yeah, it looked like he was waving to people. I don't know if he was trying to wave people away or what he was doing, but this is the biggest show of law enforcement that we have seen around the Broadview ICE facility in several weeks.
He was waving?
Yeah, we had...
What did you see from your vantage point?
Yeah, guys, I'm just saying, I was standing just a couple of feet away. There was people yelling shame at that armored truck as he was driving by, and the man you saw that was sticking out of the top that just turned around and put that top of the armored vehicle to block him. He was waving at demonstrators and then appeared to be motioning, blowing kisses at the demonstrators that were yelling at him.
Okay, and we're going to step away from Asal's camera right now. Asal, we're going to turn your audio down only because we are hearing a lot of yelling and screaming, and we want to apologize if there was any of the profanity that came across the air at all. We apologize. We're really trying to monitor that for you just to make sure that we're not having anything come across the stream.
Do we still have Chris Hoppermill? Chris, I'm curious from your experience, what would the purpose of that SWAT vehicle or armored vehicle be in just providing security? I mean, we just saw it drive by again. We saw it earlier in advance of seeing Kristi Noem on the ground. But I'm just curious from your perspective, like what the purpose of that kind of show would be in this situation.
Well, Jackie, something like that, an armored vehicle, obviously, that has standing points and grip points on the outside. You saw that there were agents on the outside as well as the fellow that was in the turret there with what appeared to be some sort of a delivery device for pepper balls. Something like this, more than anything else, is just a visible show of the potential of enforcement that is out there. So the level of enforcement, something meant to broadcast quietly to everybody that that there is a lot of specialized equipment that has been brought in. There could be more that like that could be brought to bear, and also to just run back and forth along that street in order to, and which would be 25th Avenue. It's now parked just off of 25th Avenue facing west on Harvard Street up against one of the buildings back there in staging, just to show everybody that, yeah, we mean business, and that we have the ability to push through a crowd with something of that magnitude, of that size. Also to just clear the route for vehicles that may need to get in and out fast. That's also a rapid delivery vehicle for a number of personnel that would be protected on the inside, others that can ride on the outside. You saw them riding on the tailboard, on the sideboards. There's handholds on there. It's obviously a reinforced vehicle there, and that is meant as kind of a silent force multiplier. Show everybody that we're in town. This is what we're dealing with here. We have the ability to move our agents back and forth there in an enhanced vehicle, not a regular passenger vehicle or just walking on the street, and that if necessary, we can get rapidly from point A to point B in order to deploy force where necessary. So that's part of the overall planning protocol for an event such as this, where obviously you have the potential for tensions to continue to escalate. You want to try and not push it past that point, but at the same time you also want to project an image of strength, an image of protection for not only people that are visiting there that are being protected, but also for the folks that have gathered out there to exercise their rights for free assembly and free speech. So you have a line here. You've got various officers that have either a higher level of protective gear. You have other officers there that are just in their patrol uniforms that are out there. Your state, your county, municipal officers, patrol officers, mixing with the other officers that are specially trained in a deployment such as this. There are
Chris, I was actually just going to ask you about that.
Different levels.
I saw U.S. Border Patrol. I saw Cook County, Illinois State Police. I believe we saw Broadview police officers. I mean, we're talking about multiple agencies out here, right, as far as around the perimeter?
Yes.
Okay, because that was what we were trying to figure out.
Multiple agencies that have been deployed out here.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. There are multiple agencies that have been deployed, but we need to emphasize here that they have been deployed to provide scene security, traffic control, not to augment any of the activities of ICE. They're not. It's not an intermingling here. It's not a force multiplication on behalf of the federal government. These are state, county, and municipal entities that are engaged at the state level and the county level and the local level in order to provide basically crowd control, traffic control, overall security for what's happening here, because obviously they were requested or they were enacted on this, brought in order to make sure that kind of keep a lid on things here and make sure that things don't go past a certain point. The potential is there for a lot of things to boil over, and you want to make sure that you've got plenty of personnel to help out and kind of keep everybody separate and try and keep things cool. So again, they're here to do in a support role, not as a force multiplier for the federal government.
One quick thing,
we
Chris,
want to make that
did
absolutely
Skywatch
clear.
have to go refill? We don't have an aerial view of this, right?
Yes, right now, Skywatch have to tried to maximize the fuel range by continuing to circle as opposed to staying in one place and trying to hover there, because you're going to be running through fuel, especially in warmer conditions such as this here, with not a lot of wind to help you out. So they're going to have to go back, get a bag of gas there, and then they can come back up again.
Okay.
So
I was just asking because I know one of the big things we were...
when you step out of that, yes.
Yeah, one of the big things we were looking at, and Chris, we're going to step away from you. We're going to go back to Sal, but I just want to note that one of the things we were watching from Skywatch that we can't see from this vantage point is the amount of people that have been taken into custody. We lost track at about a dozen, but we've seen more since then. They had lined all of those that were taken into custody on a rail. They had them sitting with their hands behind their back, agents surrounding them. We're going to continue to, of course, ask and get more information about where they're being taken, if they'll be charged, what will they be charged with, because here's that video here. You can see this was about an hour ago. Skywatch was here, and you could see at that point there was about a dozen protesters, but Jackie, since then, we've seen at least 4 more people being taken into custody, and there were so many that we started losing count.
Absolutely. And Audrina, you had mentioned about 10 minutes ago the comments of Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about Secretary Kristi Noem and the purpose of her visit. He really wanted her to take public accountability, step in front of the public and answer questions about what her department's actions have been and why they have been taking the actions that they have been.
And local officials, Jackie, also were asking that same question at a press conference at 9 o'clock. They said they wanted ICE and the Department of Homeland Security to particularly talk about the actions like in South Shore. We saw just a few days ago at 75th and South Shore, where an apartment building of 100 plus units, we had 30 plus people taken into custody. And after those people were taken into custody, there's very little information that we get after that. Give us the names. What were they charged with? And that's what we continue to ask for.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention that when he was talking about Nome, he said, and this really kind of relates to what Chris was just talking about with the show of force with the armored vehicle. He said that Illinois is not, this is again the words of Governor J.B. Pritzker, he says that Illinois is not, quote, a photo opportunity or war zone. It's a sovereign state where our people deserve rights, respect, and answers. Again, he's asking for Secretary Nome to provide some answers as to her department's actions. We're going to check in with Asal Rezai one last time before we wrap up in just about a minute and a half. Asal, we've talked about the temperature of these protests and potential clashes all morning long. What would you describe? Yeah.
And before we come to you, Asal, if you're hearing profanity and if we should not come to your camera because we're going to pick that up, let us know and we will not come to you. So just let us know if it's safe.
Okay, actually we've switched microphones to a different mic that's handheld that may isolate my voice a little bit more. So you guys are actually going to have to tell me if this mic is picking that up.
Yes,
so
it's much better. We can hear you, not them.
Okay. Okay, great. So what you're looking at right now is directly down 25th Street, looking north, and this is really the most peaceful part of this protest that we've seen. You see these protesters are just standing directly in front of different law enforcement agencies. They're being just kind of held at bay here on the side of the street, and we understand that that's why local law enforcement is here.
Asal, thank you so much. We actually we're still hearing some profanity right now, so we're gonna wrap there. But we have been covering the protests out in Broadview this morning as Secretary Kristi Noem made a visit to the Broadview facility earlier this morning. We do not know exactly where she is right now, if she's still in the facility or if she has since left, but we have been covering everything live for you here on CBS News Chicago.
And we have reached out to the Department of Homeland Security. We are asking the purpose of her visit, what will be happening later today, and so many more questions that we continue to ask. What I wanted to let you know is we're going to continue following this story closely. We've had over 150 protesters. We've had agencies from U.S. Border Patrol to Cook County Sheriff, Illinois State Police, Broadview Police from the local, county, and state level, and of course federally with those ICE agents. We're going to continue to follow this very closely. We'll keep our eye on everything. We're going to regroup, and we'll see you at 11 o'clock for our news then.